Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Outlook Industries podcast. It's your host, Trevor Johnson, and today we have a great episode for you. It is Jarryd McNeil. He is a 15 times X Games medalist, 9 of which are gold, and he has ridden for Nitro Circus for years. Before that, he rode for the Crusty Dirt Demons, and he is originally from Australia. I met this guy at the Deadwood All-In show that I rode in a couple weekends ago, and he was just one of those people that was so stoked on life and just super nice, and I was like, I have to get this guy on the podcast. So here he is. We had a great conversation. He has a lot of great things to say, and he is just such a wholesome and nice guy, and yeah, I enjoyed talking to him a whole lot. So thank you, Jarryd, again for coming on the podcast, and let's get right into this one.
It's the Outlook Podcast. We're here at the Outlook Podcast. Just as we're here, we're talking to cool people.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Outlook Industries Podcast. I'm here today with Jarryd McNeil. Jarryd, how you doing?
Good, mate. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for taking some time out to do this. First off, for the people who may not know who you are, who are you? What do you do? Kind of, where did you grow up? Those kind of things.
Yep. So I guess about to turn 30 years old next month. Originally from Australia, so born and bred in Australia. So being here for 10 years in America, I ride freestyle motocross professionally. So compete in the X Games. I got 15 medals, 9 golds, and tour with the Nitro Circus crew pretty much all year round, besides the last year. But we're starting to kick things back off in, I think, August. So yeah, tour with those guys, and just live on the edge.
Yeah, you as far as action sports are concerned, you're kind of living the dream. I'm kind of wondering how you got into FMX and how you just because I know that you motocross raced before you did FMX. So yep. How'd that transition work, and how'd you get into X Games and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I grew up racing motocross as a young kid. So I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger brother. So we all grew up racing motocross. Not my sister, but she was a supporter of us. But just grew up racing motocross with my brothers, and like most things, it just kind of started off at the local motocross track and doing little club events, and then moved into state championships and then Australian titles, and I became a high-ranked Australian champion motocross racer at 16 years old, and kind of seen freestyle around the same time as I was Australian champion amateur. I was playing around with freestyle just in the backyard, and got a couple of shows, gigs with Cam Sinclair and Blake Williams, Bilko, and next thing you know, I was doing shows and making a living off freestyle motocross, and kind of got pushed to freestyle motocross because of my racing. The support wasn't there, even though I should have had support from the racing teams and stuff at that time, coming off an Australian championship as a young kid, and kind of watched the motocross industry that I put all my time and money and effort into just falling around me, and wasn't getting the support that I needed. And freestyle, I was starting to make a bit of a name for myself, getting more shows. Got on Crusty Demons in 2008, so that was kind of my introduction into the freestyle touring world, traveling. I got to go over to New Zealand for the first time ever in 2009 and do an actual tour. So that was the opening thing for me, and that kind of kicked off my freestyle career. And at the same time as I was doing freestyle with Krusty, I was racing professional supercross and motocross, and basically wasn't making any money riding a motorcycle doing racing. So freestyle, I was making a bit of a living and getting to travel the world and have fun riding, which was a lot different than racing, because racing, it was always training, putting in the hard yards and just getting busted up. And then freestyle was I could go and express myself, have fun with the fans, and get paid to do it. It was pretty sweet. So I guess, 2010 was a big change for me. Got my very first invite to Nitro Circus, which kind of transitioned from Krusty Demons over to Nitro Circus. Got invited to Nitro Circus. Got on my very first Nitro Circus tour, and was lucky enough to have Travis Pastrana vouching for me, but he got me a position at X Games. Like, kind of put my word, put a word out there for me, and got my name out there with the guys at X Games. And July 2010, I got my start of July 2010, I got my very first invite, and came to X Games. End of July it was, and on my 19th birthday, I got my very first medal, a silver medal. So that's kind of like the shortish kind of long version, I guess.
Yeah. I have a few questions that come from that, but first, how did you kind of, as a kid, think of you're going to be like a professional supercross racer? Like, when did that happen? Like the whole like racing thing?
So I started riding bikes at 2.5. So I was like, having an older brother, I think, influenced me to be into motorcycle riding. Like, that was my influence. It was my older brother. And I don't know what, like, I don't know, just friggin' the way it went, I guess. Just growing up, being so into motocross with our family, I think going to the local races and meeting people, and that kind of kicked off my riding, I guess, just the passion. And then going and racing local events, and then, traveling away on the weekends with my family, just camping out. All of our friends were at the tracks racing, and it was like the best part of my childhood growing up was racing motocross, and it was awesome. I loved racing motocross, but I guess it transitioned to freestyle. I didn't think as a kid, I guess I don't know. As a kid, I thought I was going to be a professional racer. Like, I thought I was going to come to America, and I made it to a professional career with racing. I got to my pro ranks, but my whole childhood dream was to be a professional motocross racer and a farmer. That's all I ever wanted to be.
Oh yeah.
So then it was kind of weird, because I got into freestyle motocross, not really like wanting it as a career, but I guess watching Travis Pastrana, like, as a kid, you were like, he didn't just ride tracks. He tried to do tricks. You'd see him jump over a pond and do a no-footer, and that was like, oh, that was sick, So I think that made me want to do more than just be a racer, but I loved racing. Like, I wanted to be a racer, but it was like, I love to do other things. I love to like be a show-off and kind of show my other skills, not just that I was a racer. So I think that helped with the freestyle world. But dreaming as a kid, I always wanted to come to America and live the American dream, and race. Originally, it was racing in America was the dream. And then I guess when you're in that like motion and your career's starting to pave its way, and then next minute you get an invite to go to X Games for a different discipline in the sport, it's kind of changed my whole thinking. But then it's like I just ran with whatever it was going at that point, like it at the start it was a childhood dream that started to pick up traction, and then it was next minute here I am in America living that childhood dream, but just in a different type of in a different discipline in my sport. So it was kind of, I'd made it in a different way, so it was kind of like threw me off.
Not exactly how you thought you would, but
not exactly, but I'll take it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right,
it's like,
exactly.
I'm loving it. Like, I made it here for something that I wasn't even really dreaming of. That's what's crazy, is like I was so dedicated to dreaming of motocross that that's what I thought was going to bring me here, was racing. And then freestyle brought me here. I ended up going and racing like a pro national in 2014, and using my freestyle money to fund it all and do all that. So it's kind of
weird.
Reverse role.
Yeah.
Super weird.
Because it's supposed to be that racing's where the money's at, right?
You would think so. I mean, I think with racing, it's with freestyle, you can get into freestyle, I think, with a lower budget. So like people can kind of get into the sport, they can kind of pick it up and it may be, if you know somebody that has a compound, it's more of an easier maybe thing to get into and make a living from if you're good at it and you do shows and tricks and backflips and all that stuff. Racing, in the first part, is very expensive. Your parents will spend mega amounts of money trying to keep you racing till you get to the pro ranks. And when you get to the pro ranks, either the racing has to start making some funding or your parents' bank accounts going down.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think with freestyle, if you get in and you get in with the right people and they can get you to shows and that, you can actually make an income and a living off of it. At the start, it might not be the best living, but you can make money. You know what I mean? And then it'll grow if you get better and better. With racing, you have to do the hard yards at the start as far as the money and investing into racing and that. But the thing is too, is if you do make it to the top level, to stay in the top level, it's insane amounts of money and support and sponsorships and that. So I think you can make money in the long run if you make it professionally in racing, but to get to that top 10 group of the 450, 250 guys and make a living, that's really, really hard. So if you don't have the support, there's a lot of politics in motocross too. So if you're not down to do certain things or play certain games, you'll get pushed out of it real quick. And that's probably what happened a lot to me. I didn't like to lower my standards to that crap. So freestyle was what it is, right? Yeah.
You also said before that you were worried about breaking yourself off in racing, so you do freestyle. That blows my mind because I feel like the injuries are higher in freestyle. Is that not true?
Yeah, I mean, it's different too. Like, I think it's probably the same in a way, but I think just wearing yourself out, like burning yourself out more so than literally breaking yourself off, I suppose I'd rephrase it. Like, with racing, you kind of, every weekend you're racing, you're training, you get to an age when you get to like, 14, 15, 16, where you really, if you're a top racer, you have to start training. Like at 15 years old, I was going to the gym and training and cycling, and like that's all we did. And and don't get me wrong, it's fun. Like if you can find a happy medium with it and that, it's definitely, I mean, in the long run, it pays off. But yeah, it's pretty hard. You get pretty burnt out. A lot of kids will get burnt out. You've done it. For me, like I done it I started riding at 2.5. So I started racing, around 9-10 years old. And when you've done it for so long and you do the same thing on a motorcycle, the same routine, it can get so repetitive that people can get burnt out and not have fun with it anymore. And, it kind of plays a big part. So, for me, moving into freestyle, kind of like, I guess, in a way, my whole amateur career up until 17, 18 was just racing. And I was never burnt out. I just didn't get that next opportunity to keep pushing to the racing in America with that stuff, right? So I didn't get burnt out. I just didn't get the support to keep me going that far. But then at the same time, I picked up another sport in another part of the sport. So I transitioned to freestyle, and it almost opened up a whole new world for me. Like it helped me maybe put more time onto my sport, and I enjoy riding a bike more now because I'm not burnt out from racing, if that makes sense. It maybe made my career longer because I've spent so much time racing, and now I've spent a lot of time doing freestyle. So it just opened it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit more expressive and creative, which is fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How did you end up getting an invitation to do shows in the first place? And then what was the invitation to Nitro like, and how did you end up getting that? Yeah, so that's a crazy story. So
basically, I guess Cameron Sinclair took me to my first ever freestyle show in Broken Hill, the middle of nowhere, Australia, where Mad Max was filmed in this town.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's in the middle, and that was like a desert, mining town. And that was my very first, one of my very first introductions to an Aussie freestyle show. And after doing that, I got to do a couple more shows with Cam, and he kind of got my foot in the door at different shows. And then Krusty Demons there was Jackson Strong, who's obviously top X Games and a gold medalist in freestyle. And so me and him we're the same age. We're both born in 91, and we're just young Groms coming up. And Krusty Demons back then used to have Groms, and Jacko was on the spot for that. He'd been on there for a year or so, a couple of years touring with them, and Krusty Demons as a Grom. And Cam and Bilko kind of got me in the door and set as another Grom. So it was like me and Jacko were the two Groms on tour, which actually ended up turning into three of us, which was Levi, Sherwood. So there was three of us at the end. But it's pretty sick. But just kind of my introduction was like Cam Sinclair and Bilko, really just getting my foot in the door with those. Obviously doing a couple of shows prior, I kind of established a bit of a name, and then obviously from my racing background, I had a bit of a name from that. So that really helped in getting my foot in the door. And Krusty Demons came to a local show in Shepparton, which was about an hour and a bit from my house. And that was really my introduction. That was like, hey, come to this show. You can ride it. You can be the Grom and do, a handful of jumps in the show. And who knows what will happen. So I went and did the show. It was my first ride and did really well. And then they invited me to go to the next show, which was Wagga Wagga, which was about 2 hours from where I live, where Jackson Strong actually lives. So it was a local show for him. So we got to do both of those two places, which was sick. And that was 2008. So that was my introduction there. And then 2009 rolled around and they were like, hey, do you want to come to New Zealand for a tour? So that was my very first tour on Krusty Demons. And, I think we did like a 6-stop tour or whatever it was. And the wildest, I'm 17, 18 at the time, and it was just wild. Like Krusty Demons they were loose. And at the end of Krusty Demons was a bit more tamer than at the start of the guys, like the original OGs. But dude, that was some wild memories, I can tell you that.
Just crazy stuff.
Just being around those dudes. That thing obviously 09 finished up the year with them. I did Supercross that same year. So I did Oz SX, which was Chad Reed and Mike Pora basically started up Oz SX, which was a big Supercross series that we had. So I did the halftime freestyle competition and show, and then raced the 250 class. So did that, and so that was the end. Finished off 09. Then 2010 rolled around, and Krusty Demons was falling off the face of Earth now. And, hey, stop it! And the Nitro Circus was starting to evolve. So we had my dog's going nuts. Oi! My other dog's outside. So
that's good. What kind of dog you have?
I got 2 pit bulls. So pit bulls. Oi, let me lock him out. That's interesting. Come on,
you're good.
Go, or you won't be quiet. Sweet. So back to that. Sorry about that. So 2010 came around. Krusty was falling off the face of Earth, and Nitro Circus was the new wave of live action sports. So that was coming up, and basically a lot of us guys from Krusty actually got picked to come and do Nitro Circus because we'd been doing tours for a few years now. So that whole live show was something that they needed, and they just needed to change the show and make it bigger and better. So, they brought us in, and it was kind of funny because my first ever actual show, I hadn't done the backflip to 75 feet to dirt at that time. So my kind of in for the Nitro Circus tour was, hey, you had to do a backflip. And I was like, I'd flip to dirt off 45 foot off the super kicker or 50 foot. And that just something was like, I really struggled with the backflip on the motorcycle. Like as far as 75, like it was like something that has always played a big part of my career is like I've struggled with the flip. So when that was put on me to do a flip, I honestly struggled. I gave in. I couldn't nail the flip, but I couldn't just get my head around doing it at 75 feet to dirt. Even though I'd done smaller gaps to dirt, I just, for some reason, I don't know, just
didn't want to over-rotate it for sure.
Yeah, exactly. You want to over-rotate, you want to under-rotate, you want to mess it up. So we were out practicing before tour, and Travis was practicing the tandem flip with some random people to try and get the tandem backflip, the 2-person backflip at that point. And he was out practicing at the same place that I was practicing to do the backflip in the foam pit. And I was just riding, and I was just doing pretty gnarly turn downs and whips and stuff. And Travis was pretty stoked on it. And I didn't really think too much of that. And then the night before the show, like the manager was like, hey, we can't have you in the show. Like, you didn't flip, blah, blah, blah. Like, that was part of the deal. Like, you're just going to have to watch the first show, and then we'll send you home after that. So I basically kicked off tour at that point. Like, I was done. And then because I didn't flip, so I was like, fuck, this is kind of crazy. So I went home that week, and it was just like over it. And my buddy actually got my spot. My buddy Matt, one of my best mates, Matt Lewis, got my spot, and he actually ended up accidentally hitting the ramp in first gear at the first show, the first Sydney show, which was the week later. And he basically took down a bunch of riders, and like they had to replace some dudes. They had to replace my buddy who got hurt, and they replaced it with Joel Brown, which is another freestyler. Yeah. And then Joel crashed on the second night in Sydney. So random. So the first night in Sydney was Matt, second night was Joel. And they're like, after the Saturday night, they're like, hey, they called me and like, hey, look, we need you to come to Sydney tomorrow. It's like an 8-hour drive for me. I'm like, my bike was still on tour because I was supposed to be on tour. Yeah. So they're like, hey, come to Sydney. If you can make it here by tomorrow afternoon, we'll put you on tour. And you just have to do your whips and your tricks, and you don't have to flip. And I'm like, well, sweet, that's perfect. So when did the Sydney show? Got back on tour, went to the Melbourne tour, which was another, like, that's my home city. That was the closest city for me, so that's a big one for me. And got on that, and was back on tour. And at the same Melbourne show, back then they had X Games China, which was like it was by X Games. It was kind of a low budget, cheap China X Games that happened for multiple years, but it wasn't like, you didn't get official X Games medals and stuff like that. It was just more entertainment. Yeah. So the management group came back. One of the guys came back through from X Games, was flying back through Australia to go back to LA, and called in, and he's like, hey, Travis is like, dude, you need to check this kid out. Like, his whips are insane. Like, he would be a great asset for X Games, and you should think about maybe bringing him and putting him part of it. And next thing you know, he looked at me and must have thought I was doing pretty good. And probably a month out before X Games, like the end of June, start of July, they called me and were like, hey, but Travis was like, hey, you're going to have an invite. I'm giving you an early heads up. And literally like a week later, X Games invited me and got to go to my very first X Games. So it was like, long story, but yeah, it's pretty crazy to see. Like, my career was like teeter-totting on two of my mates going down, basically. If those two didn't crash, I probably wouldn't have came back on tour. I'd be probably driving tractors on a farm right now. Wow. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. That's really the turning point in my career. So a couple of them, like a racing changing point to freestyle, and then like pretty much being told I was off tour and my career was done almost, to then being back on tour and getting an invite to X Games. It's just like in about from 2008 to 2010, there was probably some like pretty up and down changes in my career and life, for sure.
Yeah. How, like, what do you compete in X Games?
My very first one was best whip. So that's what I got invited for. So, got a silver at my very first ever X Games, best whip. And then obviously it evolved. I got my second event I got into was speed and style. So I got to do that 1 year. That was really sick. That's where you'd race the track, but then you'd have ramps in there. So you had to do tricks while racing another competitor. Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah. And then my third discipline was step up. That's probably one of my most medaled events as well, where you go like high jump, where you have to step up over the bar. Oh, right. Kind of like at school where you had to high jump, where you jump over the bar, just with a motorcycle. So,
wow. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Did you know Travis before you got on Nitro?
No, never. He was just my childhood dream idol, like guy that I looked up to. Yeah. But,
He was on
got to meet.
Krusty before you, right?
No, he actually never really rode Krusty.
Okay.
He was more just the Krusty Demons was more like Brian Deegan, Mike Metzger, Kerry Hart, like Travis never really did the Krusty stuff. He was in the videos. He was always in the Krusty videos and stuff. But as far as like live shows was like more Deegan, Feist, Twitch, like the like hardcore Metal Militia dudes.
Right. Yeah, because I knew that I knew that Travis was a part of the videos. I just didn't know that he didn't ride in the shows, I guess. But he kind of got his idea for Nitro through that, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like as far as like Mike Pora, who was one of the owners of Nitro Circus, part owners. Basically, they all came together and started up Nitro Circus. So part owner of Krusty got out of Krusty and came over to Nitro Circus, and then a bunch of people from the Nitro family, which is like, Travis, Jolene, Jim DeChamp, all those guys, like they all, they had the MTV series at that point. So basically it was like a live TV show and a live production show, the kind of Krusty Demons and the Nitro Circus, that they came together to make Nitro Circus, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
So like at the end of Krusty Demons, it started to be, at the start of Krusty, it was like all the hardcore Metal Militia partying, all that gnarly stuff. And then it went to more, the sport kind of changed to like the Nate Adams, like the Adam Jones, a bit more cleaner cut, like more professional side of the sport. Yeah. So when it transitioned to the cleaner cut side of the sport, that was at the same time as like Krusty Demons was kind of like going out and they needed like something new and fresh. And it was kind of like at the same time as the MTV Nitro Circus stuff. So they kind of like molded together to make like a nice, good family orientated show, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm kind of also wondering, like, obviously, like this has been a big part of your life. It is your life at this point. But what do you do when you're not riding your motorcycle? Like, what do you like to do in your free time?
Just drive tractors, really. Just make jumps or do work on projects. I like to, stay busy and work for stuff. So just spend a lot of time on my tractors, like my cat equipment, just messing around, building stuff or work, like doing little jobs around the area or welding stuff. Love welding and playing. Cool. Like being out. I like hands-on stuff. So just being out in the shop, working on my bikes, tinkering on stuff, building stuff, making things, and that's
awesome. When did you learn how to weld and how?
When I left school at 15 years old, I left school pretty early, like 14 and 9 months, 15 years old, I left school, dropped out, and my parents said like if I wanted to leave school. At that point I was doing really well at racing, so that was when I was kind of like finishing school, transitioning into being a professional racer around that same time. And my parents said to me, if you want to quit school, you've got to get a job for a little bit. We want you to see what it's like to have a job, And my buddy at the time was like 22, 23, and he had a welding shop, like he had his own business. And basically I set up with him that if I signed out of school, I could go and work with him. So worked with him for probably like 7 or 8 months welding, and then riding. I was actually starting to get even better with riding and more more competitions, like events and stuff, and going and racing a lot more and getting like, that was when I was kind of becoming an Australian champion. So I was winning state titles and championships. So basically racing kind of took over from the welding and I kind of moved away from it. But this was a really cool like hobby not a hobby, but a job that turned into, now it's like a hobby. I just enjoy building stuff. I don't know, with metal you can kind of build whatever you want, ramps, all kinds of contraptions, weld up my machinery, like equipment, fix things like that, and it's pretty good.
Well, welding is one of those skills that's just like really, really nice to be able to know how to do, especially when you're working around so much metal all the time. Because I'm sure you build your own ramps and fix a lot of your own parts or machinery or whatever. So
exactly. Yeah, it's fun. Like it's like it's so creative. You can just get so creative with it. Like it's kind of like building jumps with a machine. Like you have an idea in your head, and then you start measuring and cutting and welding, and next thing it's like in front of you. So yeah, I enjoy that.
Yeah. What sponsors do you have, and how did you kind of get on with them?
Yep. I mean, yeah, I've had a lot of sponsors all through my whole career. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Like, obviously, when you start getting results and doing well at events, and a lot of days, like a lot of the stuff nowadays is like kind of sucks, but it's come to it, like social media following and stuff like that. So that a lot of companies and brands look at your social following. Not to say like you need to go out and earn it, all right? You need to go out and like earn your spot, like earn your keep, and kind of stand out in the sport in some way or another, and have some sort of accomplishments and things like that behind you. But yeah, sponsors look at all of that stuff as a wide variety of like, you know, competitions, what, like how you are with your fans, being out there. Yeah, all of that stuff you're following, all of that stuff's really important. For me, I mean, honestly, like Monster, these guys are one of my biggest sponsors. They're awesome. They back me with everything I do. So they're awesome to have. And obviously, as you would see, a lot of the big energy drink companies are all over the top dudes in the sport. So they're probably like your top tier sponsors. Yamaha manufacturer, which is the most amazing sponsor you could probably get. There's like only probably a handful of riders like me, Tom Peziers, David Ronaldo. There's probably like 3 or 4 riders in the world that get support for freestyle motocross from a manufacturer like Yamaha, or to get Yamaha to sponsor. So it's pretty amazing. Just did a deal with Fly Racing, so that's a new one for me. Fly's pretty sick. They're a well established brand, and they make really cool products. So pretty stoked to work with them. Man, I got my list of sponsors goes on. It could be days. Havoc Racing, which is a goggle sponsor, and sunglasses. They're pretty sweet. But yeah, got a lot of good paying sponsors. A lot of people that support me, and yeah, dude, honestly, couldn't do it without sponsors. Yeah. I mean, those things like just being able to fund a bike, like to be able to keep bikes moving. You know, oils, blood lubricants, all those Dunlop tires, all those parts that wear out, bars, handlebars, rental bars, like all that stuff is forever wearing or bending, as you would know with what you do. Yeah. It's like having all those people that can kind of even offset, like, you know, people, there's a lot of sponsors in the sport that pay and like help us out financially. But then there's all those, also the companies that are supporting us through products and things like that, which keep us not spending out of pocket and keep the equipment rolling and functioning well. So yeah, it's a kind of a good team. I'm lucky that I've got the support that I do. Like, I mean, riding shows most of the year and competitions, like last year we had nothing. COVID was insane, and being able to have support from, like, financial support from my sponsors is something that kept me going, which is amazing. You know, it's pretty hard to believe that companies will stay with you through the toughest times. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Because that's, as far as freestyle motocross goes, that's one of the top incomes probably is sponsors, right?
Yeah, exactly. If not shows, like, I mean, shows would be biggest income, but as long as you have the shows all year round, otherwise, yeah, it's the sponsors that, yeah.
So do you get paid by event by Nitro, or is it like a contract?
We all have different things. So yeah, you kind of a bit of both, but mainly so like freestyle motocross, we're like what we would call subcontractors. So
okay,
we're like a heavy equipment operator. You basically subcontract out to a company. So I'm basically a contracted rider for Nitro Circus, or whoever I ride for at that point. Like if I go to, like, you know, South Dakota, we did a show for James Carter. So basically I'm just contracted to ride that show and get paid to do the show. So basically you get paid per show. Yeah. So if you don't do a show, you don't get paid. People don't understand that too. Like, this is in our sport, like if you have an injury, you're not getting paid unless you have the sponsorships and your contracts in your sponsorships allow you to keep getting paid while injured. Some contracts will say no payment while injured. Like, it's a pretty crazy. You have a very small window to make a lot of money if you can, and that's when you're healthy and when you're able to compete and do shows and competitions. So
recovery and staying like uninjured is like the most important part for your career, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, 100%, because that's where you make your time to make a living, right? So it's
especially in a sport like your sport, which is so incredibly dangerous. Like you can't like mess up a trick and bail. Like you're still getting bodied. Like
super dangerous, and then it's real cutthroat. Like you go there's rather riders out there, like people that will undercut you for a better price, but it's pretty cutthroat. So you kind of downtime's not good. Sucks.
Yeah, exactly. What kind of like have you noticed as far as like things changing with airbags? Has it become more safe? Do you like airbags? Do you like dirt landings? Like how has that been?
Personally, like I've got like mixed opinions. Like I love airbags. They're changing the sport. They're making the sport gnarlier, but they're safer in certain ways too. So to be able to be as gnarly as we want to be, they've come at the right time. So I'm glad they came out when they did come out, and not necessarily early, because it kind of made the sport the hard ass, like gnarly, take it to dirt. That's what our sport started with, and that's what it is. So I love the dirt fact. I love going to dirt, but sometimes you have to be smart about this, and not all tricks need to be to dirt. They need to have some sort of safety precaution around them. So I'm all for the airbag. Like, I think they all play a big part in when you learn a trick. Like, you still use the foam pit, you still use the airbag. So there's different, most of the times you'll go learn a trick into the foam pit, then you'll take it to the airbag, then you'll take it to dirt, or maybe take it to an airbag landing. Like there's different things, but I think they've come at a good time, and I think they play a big part in our sport. I think in action sports in general, no matter freestyle, scooter, BMX, skateboard, we're all benefiting from it right now. So it's good.
Yeah. All these companies have popped up in the last like 3-4 years. It feels like they haven't been around that long.
That's where you got to be careful. You got to look and pick and like do your research on those things, because that's where you can find yourself in a problem, is if you buy a cheap bag. I mean, but like BMX and scooters, I think you can buy cheap bags and you can get away with it. It's not too bad.
Not too big a deal.
You kind of have, it's not too big of a deal. It's kind of a lot. You can have a lot of fun, and you can get cheap bags, and they're worth it. But I know in the freestyle world, you get a cheap bag, and things can go awfully wrong. So you got to do your research and pick the right bags in the freestyle world. But I think that there's definitely a lot of them. They've sprung up, and they're definitely helping the sport.
Yeah. Do they use airbags in nitro?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we use them a bit. Yep.
Nice. Do you have a foam pit at your house?
Yeah. Yep. Got a foam pit here.
Because I was talking to James a while ago. He came on the show, and he was talking about how he like hated foam pits, like with a passion, because he's like gas getting all dumped over you. You feel like you're gonna start on fire. It's like I used them to learn backflips, and that was it. Yeah,
you pretty much just learn what you need to learn, and then you don't use them, if that makes sense. Like if I want to learn body varials or double flips, like I'll go down and use it. But as far as like going, if like I haven't flipped for, like, you say I had an accident, you haven't flipped for 8 months to a year, and you're a little bit hesitant, you're like, I need to go spin one in the pit just to make sure everything's good, right?
Yeah.
You can use that. Like, even people talk about like, do you use foam pits to learn seat grabs and basic tricks? I'm like, no, you don't. You learn those to dirt. So mainly like backflips or big flip tricks or things like that, you use the foam pit. But no one really likes them. They're not fun. If you're claustrophobic, they suck. If you don't like foam foam dust or gas on you or whatever.
Yeah,
they're not true, that's for sure. But no, they're good. They're like, I like it because I can have people come over and learn tricks and teach people how to do it. And it's not even necessarily for me nowadays either. It's like to help other kids and people even in other sports. People like BMX neighborhood kids come and ride it, and it's just it's good just to help everyone. It's just a good thing, a good tool to have. So
just a good thing. How did you end up getting one? Like, what was the process like to set one up? Did you buy it from somebody else? Like, how did you get the foam?
No, I just basically with the welder, like just welding up the framework and doing all the fencing and stuff. We did that, me and two of my buddies, and so we use like chain link fencing around the outsides with a metal frame, and then one of the sides is one of the four walls is a shipping container, like a 45-foot shipping container. So you can like stand up on there as like a viewing platform and stuff like that. I have a crane. I have one of my cranes that's sitting on there, so you can use it to get out of the foam pit as well. So it's just like some different things like that. They're pretty helpful to have, that's for sure. But to make them, it's quite an effort, and it doesn't happen overnight. Like, it's like a bit of a process. So you start off with the fencing, and then you get like car tires for the bottom for a bit of cushion, and then the net. The hardest part is getting the foam. The most expensive, hardest part is getting the foam. So
yeah, sure.
I was super lucky that I had a connection with a trampoline, one of those indoor trampoline parks, and a lot of those places have actually been taking their foam pits out and putting them airbags in there.
Yeah.
So the trampoline parks gave me a fair bit of the first round, enough for me to jump BMX bikes in. And then, because it's like 35 foot wide and 45 foot long, so it's a lot of, and they're like over probably 9 foot deep in the middle. So, it's a lot of foam.
That is a lot of foam.
Yeah, Brian Deegan gave me his old foam pit, so I just had to I took a shipping container over to his place and took my skid steer over there and took foam out of his foam pit and loaded into the shipping container until that was full. And then just did two or three runs with the shipping container back and forth from my foam pit to his. And we did that. And that got most of the foam up, but it's really, his foam's like nasty, bad foam, but you use it at the bottom of the foam pit. Make like a crater. And then the next step was getting better foam. So these other trampoline parks in COVID went out of business. So basically we went and took all their foam, and they gave it to us, and that filled up my foam pit last year to the full amount for big bikes. So yeah, worked out pretty good.
Nice. So you've only had it for like a year, have you?
I've had it for more, but when I used Deegan's foam, I used it a bit, but on big bike it was enough, but it was just disgusting. Like it wasn't pleasant.
Yeah.
So when I got the next load of foam, it made it like officially like
good.
Yeah, nice. So I actually didn't spend, like, people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on foam pits, like ridiculous. Yeah, like I probably spent maybe, like, I got all the foam pretty much for free. So like transport and all that, mate, I probably spent like 10, 15 grand maybe on my foam pit, maybe.
Really? That's
maybe not even. Like, to be honest,
not
like,
much money, but a lot of time.
Dude, just a lot of time. Like, you've got to, that's the thing too. You got to be like, you got to want it. You got to be able to like want to put in the work and do the hard yards. Like, it's labor. It's not like it's a labor job, right? Like, you got to go and do work. That's it. Exactly. So you've either got to want to do that, or you're not going to have a foam pit. No one's going to make it for you unless you pay them.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. No, it's exciting. That kind of work is exciting too. I'm kind of wondering your journey on backflips. When did you end up learning them?
So BMX bike, I learned when I was 14. Learned into like we lived on a river, so we just set up a ramp into the river. Learned that. Then I went to my very first ever, first freestyle show was my hometown show at like 15 years old. I don't know, 14 or 15 years old, and I was on a 125 at the time, a ramp. Like, we had it set up at like 50 feet or something. It was like me, my brother, and a couple of mates, and we did that was my very first ever like freestyle show, but I didn't do freestyle. I just did trick. Like just did no footers and maybe a heel click, no hander or something back then. It was super basic. So that was around that time that I learned backflip on a BMX bike, and they had on the freestyle lander, they had a dirt lander, and on the backside you'd roll in and hit a 3-pack or 6-pack of dirt jumps for BMX guys. So the local BMX guys learnt to do backflips at the same time as I did. So they would do backflips on the dirt jump. So I was like in my riding moto gear, full geared up boots on a BMX bike. I did my first backflip to dirt. And so that was pretty cool. That was my first like introduction to flipping a bicycle. And then think like 2005 or something, 06, maybe 06. It would have been like an XR50 at my buddy Jake Williams' house. We set up like this little ramp, and we decided we were going to backflip that. And so we backflipped the 110. It was a XR50, I think it was back then. Flipped that. Then 2007, I backflipped 45 foot on my 250F into the foam pit with Cam Sinclair. That was the first time I'd flipped a big full-size bike into a foam pit. Then 2010, like January or February 2010, I backflipped to a sand pile on my 252 stroke. That was my first backflip on a full-size bike to dirt. It was 2010, the start of 2010. And then my first 75-foot backflip was 2012.
Oh, okay.
So, 75-foot flip. So I did 2010, I did my first sand pile flip, and then I did 45 and 55-foot to dirt in 2010. And then I didn't flip 75 to dirt until 2012. So that was kind of cool because like for years, so since 2007, I'd flipped into a foam pit. I'd flipped a 45-foot super kicker, and I did a flip off a 75-foot ramp. Did 2 of those in 2007. So from 07 to 2012 was how long it took me to really be like set on the back flip. So from learning it to dirt to doing it to 75 foot and being comfortable was 07, 12.
Yeah.
So took a while, took a little bit. Even to do the backflip, I remember like learning it at my buddy Matty Lewis's house. Me and Joel Brown, who's actually a really good freestyler from Australia. Sorry. What am I? Did I say Joel Brown? Why am I mental blanking right now?
No, you're good.
Cut this out of the thing. But anyway, me and my buddy learned to do a flip on the same day, 75 foot. So we started at like 35 foot off a super kicker, and then we flipped it, and then we're like, right, when we go over to this other ramp, when we go to this other one, we're going to set the ramp up at 55 foot, and we're going to flip that at 55 foot, and then we're going to do it in second gear because that's the hardest part. 55 foot you could do in first gear, and our biggest thing was going to second gear, and then you spin faster when you do a gear higher, so you spin a lot quicker. And like, all right, when we go from 45 to 55, we just need to click second gear, and we just need to go over to that ramp, and we just need to go for it. So we flipped it in second gear, pulled it off, and then we just started moving the ramp back to 75 foot, like 5 foot increments at a time. And we were back at 75, and we were sorted. So it was pretty dope.
You just kind of got to work your way into it for sure.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, no, I had a really hard mental block with going upside down on my scooter for the longest time, and I just learned them. So I'm always interested in other people's stories when it comes to learning backflips.
I have backflipped a scooter.
Yeah, that's what James said too. He's like, did our Willie teach you at the same time, or was it a different time?
Yeah, I learned way back in the day, like. Dude,
okay.
When I learned to backflip a scooter, backflips on scooters had probably not even really been done, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to claim.
No.
But dude, like I did a backflip on a scooter. It was a Razor scooter, a Razor. And we had like the shopping trolley, like shopping cart for the handlebar. You know?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Dude, we like used to put bolts in the fold up part.
Yeah.
Dude, like this is way back in the day. Like honestly, I could probably this was before Ryan Williams backflipped the fucking scooter. That's before Ryan Williams even rode a scooter.
Really? When was this? Do you know?
Dude, would have to have been like 06 or 07 for sure.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
For sure. Easy would have been 06 or 07 because it was when I was backflipping my BMX bike. So we ended up taking like a mattress down to the local skate park, and there was a 5 foot at the Deniliquin skate park. There's like a 5 foot like fly out, and I remember like getting some kid's scooter, and I was like, let me try and flip it because I was flipping my BMX bike. I'm like, I can flip that, and I'm like, so I flipped, and the first one, the scooter just went friggin' flying over, like probably like 50 feet back in the skate park, and then I was like, I gotta just hold on, like keep your feet on, just like push down, keep your feet on the board, and pulled it off. Like got it a few times. I used to love. That was my thing because like I couldn't do nothing down at the skate park. Like I could air the quarters and like alley-oop and tail tap and do a backflip. That's it.
Yeah.
Like I could do nothing and then a backflip. So like after I'd finished school, I'd have my backpack on. I'd be riding home. Like I used to live like 9 k's out of town, but I used to just ride into town and ride my BMX bike at the park. And so I used to love doing it because no one would really flip in town. There's like a handful, like maybe 2 other people that were my brother's age that would backflip, but they were like the local pros. So for me, it was like that was how I showed off. Like no one flipped. So like I'd just come down with my backpack on, come flying through the skate park, backflip out of the fly out, then keep riding and ride home. Like it was like, it was a thing.
Backpack on?
Yeah, that's how I used to show off. Yeah.
That's so gnarly, dude.
Yeah, but like people would be like, because kids are just love it. But I couldn't do anything else. I could just do a backflip. So it was like the cool thing to do.
That's so awesome. So what's your experience with like BMX and scooter and skateboard? Have you done them all?
Dude, honestly, I loved BMX. Like I was always helping my buddies build BMX dirt jumps. I was always I was part of the committee growing up to build like the BMX jumps and BMX trails, and I was always involved with BMX in my local town. Like just loved riding BMX with my mates, and skateboarding. My younger brother's actually a really good skateboarder. So back in the day, I just did it for fun. I could drop in, do a rock the fakie. That's about as far as I got. Maybe an ollie or a kickflip. Scootering, I was kind of like right at the start, like I said, like with the handlebars and stuff like that. Like when scootering was like Razor scooters with like taking off. Like I was part of that. Not part of that era. Like I started to I really me and a couple of friends started to think about it and getting into it, and then that obviously just riding and stuff was more important. But so I've always loved those sports, X Games. Whenever they ask me about interviews and stuff or what could be new for X Games, and I'm probably the biggest advocate for scooters. Obviously, obviously we always gave scooter kids a hard time growing up, and it was
of course you have to.
But I was one of them, so I think scooters are badass. I think it's an in between sport of skate and BMX, and it's good for kids to get into. And at X Games, they always ask me what do you think X Games could do that could be bigger and better? I'm like, you need to get scooters in because half of the population of action sports is into scooters, and if we want our sports to grow, we need those kids in games. So for me, I think X Games is missing the point. You guys need to be in X Games competing for medals because that's a sport and kids are loving. So it's crazy because I'm a moto guy, but I'm always vouching for the scooter world because it's I just see value in our sport that's just a part of our action sports. So I've always been into other sports, and I mean I don't like ball sports. I'm not into any of the team sport type stuff. Good on them. not hating on their sports. Like, it's good that people play sports, but I just love action sports. Like anything that we do, like action sports related, wakeboarding, snowboarding, skiing, bicycles, mountain biking, motorcycles, skate, scooter, like all rollerblading, all that stuff to me is just like badass. Like they're individual sports. People just, you have a support team behind you, but it's at the end of the day, it's you kicking the goals, right? So I love that. It's so
sick. Like personal that like you can kind of feel other people's battles. The other thing is like, I think that going back to like scootering's the in-between sport that you were saying, it totally is. It has a easier learning curve, which people are like, oh, scootering's easy. It is, but it gets people into skating and BMX or just into action sports. So it's totally has its place there, even if you don't get to the next level.
Kids will be out scootering and then, they might go to a Nitro Circus show or something, and then they're like, oh, there's moto. Oh, that sport looks cool.
Yeah.
I would mind trying that. Or you see somebody like, for me, like Ryan Williams, who's a legend, and it's like he goes over and messes around with BMX, and now he's like one of the best BMXers in the world. It's like,
it's wild.
I love it. I reckon it's sick. You can just express yourself like that and do what you want, and then it helps other people in other sports too. So
and you have you have a baby coming, don't you? When?
October 17th is the due date.
Do you know gender yet, or are you waiting for that?
Yeah, I've got a boy coming.
Nice.
Yeah,
a little sick. Jarryd McNeil.
Yeah, so
that's gonna be awesome.
He's gonna have all the toys.
Oh yeah, all the toys he ever wants. Cool. How do you expect that to like change? Do you expect it to change your career at all, or like? How do you feel about it?
Don't know. I'm excited because I think I don't know. I'm at a point in my career where I'm a bit older now, and I don't know. This is just going to have something I'm going to be caring about, and things are going to be a little bit different as far as maybe just my choices in life, and kind of, I don't know, who knows, like my career, like who knows what my career will do. Obviously I want to keep riding and making money and a living and support my family as long as I can from riding, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm nervous, but I'm excited because it's cool to raise a kid. I think that's going to be everyone telling me it's like the biggest achievement. All the medals I've ever won and all those things will go out the door. Having a child is probably a biggest achievement. So looking forward to that. Hopefully my life doesn't change too much, and it might make it funner because now I'll be able to share something with the kid, and see what that kid chooses to do, what my child wants to do, and who knows? I'll let him. Give him the tools to pick from and just see what he does with them.
Yeah, that's the way to do it for sure. I'm sure he'll be great in some kind of action sport or whatever he finds. Whatever he successful in whatever he figures out to do. But that's such a cool thing. You'll be an awesome dad. So that's gonna be sick. So I have a couple more questions for you before we end. Where do you kind of see yourself in 10 years?
10 years. Honestly, I don't know, it might sound silly, but I don't know. I want to, I'd like to start up my own like contracting business and have, be able to like employ my friends and kind of get people moving and people have jobs. And I don't know, that's what I want to do. I just want to have all my friends working for me and have some sort of business running where I can employ my friends and I guess writing shows and kind of just having fun with writing and enjoying my family at that time. I think I guess I'm who knows, there's some young kids coming up in the sport, they might push me out, and who knows, I don't know. I don't want to say my career's at the end because I'm only 29 now, so still got a little bit more time. Got a good another 5-10 years left in me to be able to, probably do some more competitions and definitely do shows. But yeah, I'd like to do some projects. I'd love to try and get some sort of project done in my career where like a big, whether it's some sort of like maybe some sort of documentary film on me of like my career or something, like a real like high production, something like that. I'd like to maybe try and get some sort of, I don't know, maybe some sort of competition or some sort of like live show or something where it's kind of like what I want to do, like something that really showcases what I like. I don't know. There's multiple different things, but just a couple of different things. Like getting older, so I want to set myself up after riding. I think that's probably the main focus. Is a lot of people in our sport don't try and set themselves up with a job or a career after riding, and people need to realize that good things can come to an end. So you got to have that in the back of your mind. So having a kid is going to make me realize things real fast. So I don't want to find myself having no shows and not being set up for my life in the future. So for the next 10 years, I think setting up a business and riding as many shows and competitions, as many things as I can.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
Also, what would you tell yourself 10 years ago? Like if you could see yourself 10 years ago, what would you tell him?
If I could tell myself 10 years ago, what, like, would it be what good to do or what not to do?
Whatever.
That's
what you think. Whatever you want to tell yourself.
What would I tell myself 10 years ago? 10 years ago, never give up. Don't stop. Yeah. That's one thing I'd say, because like back then I never stopped, I never thought of it, but I'd probably say 10 years, like if I was, 10 years ago, it would have been 19. If I had stopped, I wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing now. So I would say don't. Whatever it is, even if it's good or bad, like as far as if you think you're in, like it's the end, don't think it's the end, because, things can evolve and become better. Like honestly, like from COVID, it took a toll on my mental state, like just going from touring for 10 years straight, doing unlimited shows, making unlimited amounts of money, like just being so productive and working and doing stuff, and then to just be told to stay home for a year or so, it's like pretty crazy to think, all right, like what's going to happen in the world financially, where am I need to be, blah, blah. Even to the point where I spent so much time at home realizing like, where are my friends? Like, where have my friendships gone over the last 10 years? Like, do I need to like be a better friend? Do I need to like, I've been so focused on my career that friendships and stuff needed more time. So like, you just kind of find yourself almost being lonely. You're like, I've got my missus, a couple of friends, but like, where's my friends? Like, where's the group? So I found myself actually in a bit of a funk and like pretty, not depressed, but like definitely like hit rock bottom, like watching how the government's at the moment, like just the ridiculous government that the world has right now. Yeah. Fucking shit just falling apart. Sorry to speak like that. But
no, you're good.
But yeah, just crazy stuff going on, friendships, my riding, people getting shows, me not getting shows, being like, what am I doing wrong? Like what's happening really just broke me down. I got to a point where I was like, the world is just fake. I'm over it. I'm sick of everything. I'm sick of trying this. I'm like not getting this, and just crushed me for like a little bit. And at that point I was like, had hit rock bottom. I was like, I was like at the point like these people don't hit me up to hang out and do things. Like why? Like I'm always trying to do stuff with these people. Like, and then when I hit rock bottom, like mentally, and was over everything, said everything was fake and everything's all just crap, and just like gave up, I was like, done. I'm just going to go do me. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to go out and just be me. And literally, as soon as I did that, people started hitting me up. People were like, I got shows. I was like, it was the most weird. I got goosebumps from it. Like the weirdest thing. Like literally gave up. Like I was so annoyed. I was so frustrated at other riders, people, the world, life, everything. Just so frustrated. And then literally after I gave up and said like, stuff this, I'm done.
Yeah.
random stuff started happening. So
Weird.
yeah, like
That's
this is
awesome.
like 3 months ago. So like this is this year, like this has happened. This is like coming into the new year of like realizing, whoa, is stuff actually. This is at the start of the year where, whoa, are we going into another year of this, or what? Where are we going?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Just to say, like, to go back to your question is like, don't give up, because I feel like don't give up in that aspect. Like, give up as far as like let everything go and be like stuff it. Like, don't care about those things, and then just keep moving forward and give like. Don't put so much into what the future has to be, but just like think forward and what you kind of would like it to be, but don't put all your eggs in the basket and be like, I'm going to get that, because it doesn't always work like that. But this is where it's deceiving. It's like, as a kid, dreaming is the best thing you can ever do, right? My career was a dream that became a reality. So you can always dream, but I'm saying like when you got to hit rock bottom throughout your life. You've got to hit that point where you need change, or where you have to give up and be like, let's just move forward and see what it does,
Wow.
So, kind of weird thinking, but like, I don't know. It's just,
I love that, because like you don't really realize what COVID did to people in the profession like you.
Dude, like that's the thing. Like I've got everything I could ever ask for. Like, got a missus, got a kid on the way, got cars, tractors, motorcycles, all the toys you could ever ask for from riding a motorcycle. But you can still hit rock bottom and be like, and it's not the fact of being like, I want more of this and that and this and that. It's like, you maybe just want things to be a little better in life. Like you maybe want to have some better friendships, or just a couple of different things that are a little better in certain ways, and maybe you don't have them. So you hit rock bottom, and then maybe things start opening up better for you. That's how I've felt it to work out for me. But yeah, definitely. I mean, people in professional careers are all humans at the end of the day, right? Like, people come up and they're like, "Oh, you're so normal. I'm like, what?
I know.
I'm a human being. Like, treat me the same, and I'll treat you the same. Like, it's so crazy that famous people have put such a crap thought into people's brains that there's normal professional people out there that are high profile that are normal. Like, it's so crazy. Like, it sucks that, like I've met so many rude people in the whole famous world, but I've met so many good people, and it sucks that there's more good people, but the majority of the idiot ones wreck it for all of us. Like, like people like messaging me like, "Oh, I seen you at Supercross on the weekend. Oh, I just didn't want to come up." I'm like, dude, why you not come up and say hello to me? Like, come and say hello to me, because I want to inspire you to do what I do and go out and be like me, or do what I do, or be you and go do it. Like, it's like, that's the inspiration a lot of people need, is to be able to talk to people that are good at something, or that they look up to. Like, so that stuff blows me away as well.
You're like, my only goal is to make you want to ride motorcycles more.
Yeah. So come and talk to me, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, because that's how everybody in action sports is. It feels like it's like, if you're like a high profile person, you're just like there to build the sport.
Exactly.
That's how you feel about it.
Therefore, we love the sport. We want more people like them to be interested in our sport, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wild.
Good.
One last question for you.
Yep.
What is your meaning of life and why?
My meaning of life. My meaning of life. I don't even know. What's the meaning? The meaning of life.
Not even the meaning of life, but like your meaning of life. Like, what makes you like happy? What makes you like get up in the morning? Like those kind of things.
Life.
Yeah.
That. It's just, we have a life. We get up and live, right? I think, like, what's the meaning of life? Like, you have a life. What are you going to do? Like, you're alive. Like, you wake up in the morning and you're alive.
Yeah.
So, like, get up and live. Like, I think that's like, yeah, I don't. Does dirt bikes motivate you to get up?
Yeah.
Do I wake up in the morning like, oh yeah, not necessarily. It's just life, waking up, and we've got the opportunity of a life, being able to get up and be able to breathe fresh air and get out and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't have to be like a chosen thing that makes me wake up every morning. It's like,
Yeah.
let's say like it doesn't. It's just being able to wake up, and I guess being able to wake up and do what I want to do. That's life. Like I literally have set up a life that I can wake up in the morning right now, and if I want to go ride, or if I want to go hang out with friends, or if I want to go work, I have the freedom to wake up and do as I choose to. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. That's pretty gnarly. I want to inspire other people through life. Like I would hope that I leave a good impression. People look up to me, and I guess I just want to live a good life and leave a good life for others to look up to. And I guess just keep living. I don't know if that answers it or not, but
yeah, just kind of meeting you at the Deadwood All In show, I was just inspired by the fact that you're just like so upbeat and so happy all the time. That's kind of why I wanted to like talk to you. You just have like a very like love on life kind of persona. So like, where does that come from? Just who you are?
I think it's just being a human, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think we've all, like right now, just looking at all people on Instagram and social media and like all this news and stuff, like everyone's just, like I said earlier, it's just fake, right? It's just a fake world we've been in. People trying way too hard to do different things, and like they're just fake. They're not really who they set out to be. And for me, I feel like I want to be as honest as I can possibly be. I can be brutally honest with you. I can be straight up honest with you. I can be nice, friendly. I can be angry. I can be all of it. I just whenever I talk to someone, I want them to see who I am from the get-go. I don't want to be fake. I just want, that's how people should be. Like, we shouldn't have to be told to treat others the same. Like, we should just wake up and treat others the same, right? Like, where you come from, what race you are, what skin color you have. Like, these people are on social media going, you need to do this, you need to be like this, you need to, and you're like, no. When I woke up this morning, I knew that I should treat somebody the same. I knew that I should be like this. Like, there's this way of like people like have to be taught how to act. It's just so stupid. Yeah. Mind-blowing to me. Like, my parents were just like, hey, be a good kid, grow up. Look, we prefer you to stay away from drugs and alcohol and don't do this and be safe and do this, right?
Yeah.
That's what they did. They didn't hound us. They didn't, like, my parents were the most amazing parents. And I think that is what, I think my parents were so amazing at us kids growing up that they never had to, they were so good that they never had to be those parents that your friends were like, no, Jimmy, you're not going to go to that after party. You're not going to underage drink and do all this. Like, my parents were really cool. They let us have a bit of freedom, but we always made right decisions. So I don't know, man. Like, there's too many untrained kids that are trying to be trained as adults.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's
and you can't train an adult. It's already got its way of life. So, I don't know, man. Wow. I just want to live a good life and leave a good impression, and hope that everyone else would live the same or have the same values in life as what I would. Like, I feel like I think pretty good, and I'd hope people should want to think the same.
Right? Yeah, I totally agree. Wow. Yeah. That was really good, Jarryd. Thank you for that. That was awesome. Right, man. Yeah. Sweet. So thank you for coming on the podcast again, taking the time out of your day. It means a lot to me. So thank you. And for everybody out there listening, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for making it to the end. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to hit the like and hit the subscribe button. That would mean the world to me. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please go down and give me 5 stars. Thank you guys again for listening, and have a great rest of your day.